Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So we are done with the fifth sutra, where he said Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha. And the Sakti Chakra, there are different ways in which this can be explained. As I mentioned yesterday, that para, apara, para, and paratara. And similarly, this para, pashyanti, madhyama, vaikhari, everywhere, these are all manifestations of this whole creative energy of Paramatma, the Supreme Lord Shiva. And we are now going to the next step, this Saktopaya as a contributory sadhana. Because Sambhovapaya, that Udyama Bhairava, Udyama doesn't, as I had told you, that is for very advanced sadhakas. This is not achieved, it happens. And that Udyama is that he mentioned that sudden appearance of that magical realization. When you create the conditions, through the verse number 6, and you have to sort of go in a reverse order, and then you attain it. That is what I'm saying, because that is a very self-evident thing that you realize it. Now, in this next sutra, you would definitely ask this question, because in this Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha, what is the meaning of this Vishwa Sanghara? We had understood this Vishwa Sanghara is not a physical extermination of this whole material universe. Vedanta also tries to drive home this very point, that when you have Jivana Mukti, when you become Brahmavid, when you become Brahmagya, Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati, so you become verily Brahman, then what happens to Sansara? The Sansara loses its significance. Does it mean that after knowledge about the Akasha, the sky, even if you have full good knowledge about the sky, that it doesn't have any color, it continues to look blue? And similarly, on a hot afternoon, when you are driving on a highway through a desert, you would continue to see the the mirage would still continue to appear, and the desert will look blue. The highway will also look as if there's a water body ahead of you. You have full knowledge, but it continues to create that. In Vedanta, some people say Avarna Sakti has been removed. That Pratibandhaka, which obstructs the appearance of the truth, has been removed. You know it is a rope. However, if you enter the room again when there is not enough light, after dark or during the evening, you may confuse the rope as a snake. Some expert scholars try to explain it by saying that the Avarna Sakti Avivava, the defeat of that blinding force which prevents us from seeing the rope, has been defeated. But the Vikshepa Sakti, X appearing as Y, that is still in operation. Therefore, you see, that is one. These are all prakriyas. There are different analytical tools employed by different scholars to explain that thing. So, earlier we mentioned Vishwa Sangharaha. What was the meaning of it? He is saying that there shall not be any significant distinction between the Samadhi Avastha and the Vyuthana Avastha. Samadhi Avastha is the state in which you are resolutely meditating on the self, which means you are not bothered about anything because you are not engaging with any external reality. We are sitting in meditation, so we are not engaging with any external reality. In Vyuthana Dasa, we are interacting with this. So normally, it should not be possible for us to be in a state of self awareness, because you are dealing with non-self. We are dealing with the outside world. So he's saying, no, we'll give you a solution to that. And what is that solution? We would explain to you, we'll help you realize how this external reality unfolds and plays out. And this is the game of Sakti Chakra. Sakti Chakra is manifesting and creating these diversities and dualities and multiplicities. And then when you meditate on that aspect, you are able to return to the source, which is your Swarupa. Therefore, the Samadhi and Vyuthana Dasa becomes more or less the same for in Vedanta Atmagyani, he's a Jivana Mukta, and here also he has got Bhairava Patti. He has become a Vairava. Bhairava is not somebody who is terrible. If you go to Pasupatinath temple, you have that ritualistic side of Bhairava Upasana, and you have that philosophical side of Bhairava Tantra. Bhairava is one of the appearances. Of course, you had a lot of Bhairava Upasana also uh, in Kashmir, and it could be a little funny because if you look at the Bhairava who is standing in the Pasupatinath temple, you'll be frightened because it's a huge deity, maybe about 8 or 10 feet tall, shoes, maybe about 8 feet tall, massive, Kala Bhairava. And you might find it very funny and maybe even obscene because he's standing with a erect phallus with huge, bulging eyes, open mouth, frightening. And then people offer that sarson ka tel to destroy all evil because mustard seeds are black. And then, same way with teal that we give, that also is black. The goats are black. These are all meant for sacrifice, to offer darkness, to get rid of it. But once I was a little shocked. I found that one lady, very pious old lady, and came and she was bowing down and worshipped and touched the phallus of the deity and worshipped and left. I said, what is this? They have a lot of mysticism in that tantric practice. Outwardly, it gives a lot of opportunity for some Westerners or so-called rational people who are sometimes funded. And now it has become evident that sometimes, like Nepal, and you must have read that in the newspapers today, that somebody has made an allegation that Biden administration spent something like $500 million as an incentive to some people to promote atheism in Nepal. It's quite possible. What will they do? They will do a lot of things, including misinterpretation of that sacred tradition, in which the Bhairava Upasana has a different meaning to remove all the obstructions in your life, the darknesses. But we are not going that way. We are going the Bhairava Tantra way, which is meditative, contemplative, highly philosophical, not meant for all. For a select few who are able to, move that way into meditation on the self. And here he has that Bhairava Apatti. So the Bheda Avabhasa, Bheda is not there, Swarupataha. Duality, multiplicity, all these are not real. There is only Paramashiva. And his own Swatantra Sakti is only one thing, non-different from him, however becomes multiple. You have this Panchakanchukatva, then you have this Ashtavargas. This only one Sakti, which is non-different from Shiva, and then is creating, it becomes Vanamatrakas. We've studied it. Now he's trying to say, how do you actually make it possible for a person through sadhana that he is no more bothered by the so-called appearance of distinction? I agree, philosophically, there may not be any distinction. How do you explain that the sadhaka is able to overcome any delusion, any lack of proper perception, any confusion on account of the evident distinction, which is very evident to the normal eyes, between the samadhi dasa and the vyuthana dasa? That is the question. And that is being answered, to keep it short, in this verse, the sutra number 7. And what is the sutra? Jagrada swapna susupta vede turya bhoga sambhavaha. It's a sutra, very cryptic, right? few words and a lot of meaning is being conveyed. What are the Vedas that we have? We have Avastatraya Viveka in Vedanta, we have done it. So you have the Jagrat Avastha, you have the Shopna Avastha, and you have the Susupti Avastha. Before we get into the details, just to think about it, what is Jagrat Avastha? What is that waking state? The Jagrat Avastha is one where there is a reality outside of you and independent of you, and that is all about physics, classical physics. Classical physics is all about there is a knower, he has a brain, he has some ability to think and analyze, and he's analyzing about a reality. Time, space, all these are real. Classical physics. That is Jagrata Avastha. So there is a reality with which you can connect, and another guy can connect simultaneously. If there is a baby playing with a very big dog, a Saint Bernard, you are getting frightened, and they are friends. These are the guard dogs. If you go anywhere close, they'll kill you. They love that baby, the baby brother of that dog or that she dog, whatever. She or he protects that dog, and they are loving, and the boy slaps him, kicks him. The dog laughs and smiles, and they are playing with each other. You go anywhere close, you are in problem. Now, this particular thing, it's not only you are watching. I can watch it. That little baby's mom can watch it. The neighbor can watch it. The policeman can watch it. Everybody can watch it. So there is an element of intersubjectivity. It's verifiable. So there is a prameya, what is known, and there is a pramata. There is a knower and there is a process of knowing. Let's graduate to the sleep state, dream state. In dream state, unlike the Jagrat Avastha, the waking state, where there is a knower, there is a known, and there is a process of knowing, there's a process of knowing. In the dream state, there is a process of knowing. Maybe there is something known also, but that what is known is not outside of the knower. That is the most critical thing you have to understand. It is through sankalpa vikalpa. Now imagine that you see a baby playing with that Saint Bernard in your dream. I'm just shuffling it a little. In your dream, you are seeing your own child or your nephew or niece, small baby child, boy, girl, whatever, playing with a big dog. It frightens you because it's very powerful and the baby is very small. At that state, the dog, the baby, and the mother of the boy or the girl who is playing with that dog, that particular lovely garden in which they are playing, the dog leash, all of this is actually you. Because there is no dog outside you, there is no baby outside you, there is no mother of the baby outside you, the garden is also not outside you. Everything you see is your own creation based on your sanskaras or sense impressions during your waking state. How that admixture is produced when you see some frightening dreams or nightmares. Like, for example, you see that you are playing, let's imagine you're playing basketball in the sky. And what is the ball? The ball is actually Himalayas. You can see the funny tree. Or there's a beautiful description in Sanskrit texts. You wake up, you climb up a tree to take a dip in the jacuzzi, which is on the top of the tree. This funny thing. Where did you take a bath? On the top of this tree. And you? No, I actually took a bath on that palm tree. No, 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 not the mango tree. Two people are talking. Where they're talking? In the dream. Now you forget about this dream world. This dream world, what is the difference between dream world and the waking state? The basic difference is that the knower is knowing what is part of him, within him. It's not outside of him. If you go to the deep sleep state, now whatever is in the waking state becomes false in the dream state. Whatever is real in dream state becomes false in waking state. And whatever is real in the waking state and the dream state becomes false in the deep sleep state, because in the deep sleep state or the Sushupti Avastha, you have what? Only prana sakti. You are just breathing. Mind is not there. You cannot think, you cannot analyze. But Vedanta asks us this question: if you are able to say that you had a good sleep when you wake up, was there somebody who experienced that happy sleep? There must be someone. How else you are able to say that I don't know anything, I had a good sleep, and it was very pleasant? Ah, what a lovely sleep. I mean, you are waking up and you are saying you had a lovely sleep, and you don't know what happened. Your mind wasn't there, so you couldn't possibly even think about that state of lovely sleep, because you're in a sleep mode. The computer was in a sleep mode. But there was somebody who experienced it, and that experience's presence cannot be refuted or denied. And that is that which is beyond that. And we'll go there. What he's trying to say here: Jagrata Swapna Sushupta Vede. There is some difference between these. However, when you are able to recognize this, Turiya Bhoga Sambhava, that fourth state where you're beyond these three states, Avhoga. Now, in Vedanta, the Turiya Avastha is a state of awareness, Sachidananda Swarupa. That Jnana verily is Ananda. There is no knowledge and happiness are not distinct from each other. In philosophy these days, there was one presentation made by one American professor in a group of students from JNU. They're working on this affect theory. They're saying that the cognitive processes associated with the experience of pleasure and pain and stuff like that, and the process of cognition when you are knowing right and wrong, are they distinct processes? They're similar. There are some eureka moments, isn't it? And he's saying these are new discovery. I'm dealing with this, and you Google, you can find what is affect theory. Some bright brains are working on it, and they're trying to reflect on its implications for social theory. But the interesting thing is that in our tradition, they are not two different segregated realms of your mind. The ethical, the experience of what is good and bad, the experience of what is pleasure, what is pleasant and unpleasant, and that process of knowing what is true and false, they can be analytically distinct, but it's just one conscious process. Therefore, we say Sachidananda. That Sat, that Chit. And that verily is Ananda Swarupa. That Jnana Swarupa is itself Ananda Swarupa. Why should you know Brahman if there is no happiness there? Raso Vaisaha, the Upanishad says. So, with keeping all these in mind, they're saying Turiya Bhoga, Abhoga. That rapturous experience of that fourth state is possible. How is it possible? When you are able to see the continuous presence of that witness self. I'm turning a little Vedantic here, which is Sarvan, that interrupts your deep sleep state. But there is this underlying consciousness which is not interrupted. What is consciousness? It's like a field of all fields. If we can think about it, just think about it. It's your domain. Is that universe where all universes are like subsets? There are permutation and combination regarding how they interact with each other, but it's the universe of all the universes, the field of all fields, and is continually present in all of them. That Upanishad also mentions. And therefore, he's saying, when he realizes this, and how that does happen, it's a big challenge, isn't it? That is sought to be explained by saying that when you do the Shakti Chakra Sandhana, meditate on the Shakti Chakras, then you are simultaneously being aware of that Shiva Tattva because there is no such distinction between Shiva and Shakti. Na Shakti Rahita Shivaha, na Shiva Rahita Shaktihi. There cannot be ever any energy. That's what everyone now in Vedantic circles are trying to say this. They say you can know either the location of a particle or its frequency, fine enough. Just twist the story. When it's a particle, its wave nature is still there or it's not there. You cannot know it, fine, but it's there. Or if you're knowing that at the same time you decide, no, I'll just focus on the wave nature, and you can. But particle nature, so they are just one unified unity. Looking at it from two different vantage points, you would be seeing one aspect of it. If I can simplify it in a very naive way, most likely irritating if there's a physicist listening, will not find it very interesting. But in a very naive language, that is what it will mean. Shiva Shakti will appear to be different realities, but when you are meditating on the Shakti Chakra Sandhana and you do that vichara, you are returning to that pure Vairava Swarupa of yours. Therefore, this is how he's saying that Samarasya, experience of the uniformity, non-difference between Vyuthana and Samadhi. Okay, and then we'll get into how different commentators have explained it. But as we are doing every day, I'll just first go to the main the main commentator, the Siva Sutra Vimarshini. So that is what will go. So Jagrata Swapna Susupta Vede Turya Bhoga Sambhavaha. That is what he's saying. So what is that Turya Bhoga? Turya is fourth. Now you might ask this question, that state deeper than the deep sleep state is called Turiya. Turiya Avastha. Turiya means fourth. There's a lot of philosophical discussion on that. How can which is present in all three states be called the fourth state? Why should it be called the fourth state? Actually, no words can ever define it. That is why a lot of people ask, okay, what is the definition of Brahman? No, the answer would be from a Vedantist, avang manasya gochara. Nor can you describe it, nor can you think about it. Gochara means Vishaya. It is not an object of either your words or your thoughts. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasashaha. That is what Upanishad says. Your mind goes there and bounces back because it cannot capture it. Your words go there, cannot describe it. No definition is possible. And then you turn back at me and say, okay, then why are you saying this is Turyavastha? No, the scholars in this field have explained it because we have talked about three states and we are talking about a reality which is much superior, ever present in all of them, beyond these and in all of them. We call it Turyavastha for lack of proper way to talk about it. And this Turya Abhoga, that rapturous experience. Sambhavaha. So that happens. Now, the moment I say Sambhavaha, you'll turn back and say that it's like cooking a recipe. So you'll do sadhana to realize it. No. The moment you say that Atmajnana is sadhya, something which you can attain, it becomes Karya Rupa. It becomes a product. No product can be permanent. All products have an expiry date. If you make Atmajnana a product, it's not worth it. Why? Because you will lose it. It will not stay with you for all time. So it is Swata Siddha. Then why you do sadhana? What is nonsense? You are saying is Swata Siddha. Everyone is Brahman. Then I am reading Vedanta for what purpose? No, in order to realize it. That is the truth, but you don't know it. That is the difference. Therefore, the Siva Sutra Vimarshanikara, Kshemaraja, talks about it. Let's quickly look at it because you are looking at this commentary. Samanantara Nirupasyamananam Jagrata Swapna Susuptanam Vede नाना रूपे पृथक्त्व अवभासे उद्यम भैरवः इति लक्षितस्य स्फुरतात्मनः सर्वदशा अनुस्यूतस्य तूर्यस्य च आभोग चमत्कारः तस्य संभवो नित्यमेव तूर्य चमत्कारमयत्वं प्रोक्त महायोग युक्तस्य भवति इत्यर्थः केचित् संभव इत्यत्र संविद इति स्पष्टार्थ पठन्ति. This is the four lines he writes. He's saying, look here, I'm just explaining to you. These three states are there: Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, and they have these differences that we discussed right now. Nana rupe pruthatva abhavase. So it appears they are all differences. He's saying Udyama Bhairava. I mentioned that in the fifth verse. And when I mentioned this, what did I do? That Udyama is not actually an effort or anything, but it happens. It just, that glow of that inner light, without any interruption, becomes evident. It materializes. Materialize again is a wrong word. It just manifests. The one who is reunited with the Siva consciousness, the one who is united in Vedanta with the Brahman or with Swarupa, with the self, that glow of self-awareness becomes evident. Iti lakshitasya. So bahirmukha antaralakshya. And he will now mention there is another sadhana in the Krama sadhana, the Kali Krama and other, as I was mentioning yesterday, gradually working on your consciousness. There is a state they mention with the sadhaka can engage with the external world, constantly staying in the internal world, and then can be continuously in the internal world while staying engaged with the external world. You ask me a good example in everyday life. It's your mother. She's in the kitchen, and yet she's all the time thinking about the baby. She's managing everything, and then she's also lost in herself. And all of us are doing it in some way or the other. So you have this abhyantara pravesha, and then you have bahirmukhata. Your mind is still working on it. Huh? You're still aware of it. And then you're going out. The mother is going out, still she's thinking about what's going on with the baby at home, whom she has left with the maidservant or caregiver or whatever. We do that. It happens. But we are talking about sporadic instance of this kind of sadhana. However, the sadhaka who is doing this, he has gone to that level. Again, this is not a physical distance. He has basically removed a lot of obstructions in his consciousness so that for him, this is an external reality and this is the internal reality. The segregations lose their importance. The segregations lose their hold over him, becomes his consciousness becomes all pervasive, united and one. And by the power of that unity, he is able to mind the outside and inside. Is slightly different from the Vedanta, where he rejects the whole samsara as Maya and is lost in his pure self. Here, he has no problem with the external world and he has no attraction or obsession with the internal world, and vice versa. He has become Paramashiva, and Paramashiva is the creator, and he creates the samsara and is still there in his eternal meditation. And therefore, saying, Iti lakshitasya spuratatmanaha sarvadasa anushyutasya. Sarvadasa means all the states. Swapna, Jagrata, and Sushupti. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Anushyutasya, it's Sutre Manigana, Iva Bhagavad Gita Bhagavan had said. So it's there, present in all of these three states. Turyas, the fourth one, Avogaha, that rapturous experience of that insightful witness. Chamatkaraha. How does that happen? Because it is Swata Siddha. He's not attaining it. That magic happens, it appears. Do you remember the first time you ever did the how to do the process of crystallization in school? A very boring experiment. you have beautiful crystals of copper sulfate, they materialize. Whenever you're making any recipe, you have a time when it becomes, it was already there, it just takes shape. But all recipes, another thing, you are achieving it, you are making it happen. Here, you're just seeing it because it was there, but you are not being able to see it. It's like you're looking at a night sky and you're trying to locate what is called in Vedanta the Arundhati Nyaya. Very hard. It's a very tiny. So somebody says, okay, look at the polar star. Look at the Saptarshi Mandala. Can you see this particular star? Okay, next to it, do you see something flickering, very small, tiny, insignificant? Yeah. So that is Arundhati. You start with the polar star and this whole Saptarshi Mandala, and ultimately you are showing that. Or similarly in Vedanta, they give the example of Sakha Chandranaya. The baby wants to see the moon. It doesn't know how to see it. He said, Mama, where is the moon? And the moon is not the full moon that day. Maybe it's of the second or third day, so it's very tiny. Mom says, okay, look at this tree. Fine. Look at the branch. Go up, look at the third branch, and you see there's a division there. Can you see there's a white line, the small one, which is kind of like a curve? You are able to see that? And there are clouds. The baby finally says, yeah, yeah, I see it. That's called Sakha Chandranyaya. Because that truth is so subtle, very difficult to know. So you have layers and layers of, it's called Adhyaropa Apavada Nyaya. You do one hypothesis, and then you go to the next where you reject this hypothesis, and then you go on doing Apavada. You assume and then dismiss that assumption. And ultimately, when you have gone beyond all these assumptions, where you are, there is no more assumption, but there is no answer. There is no theory. There is no hypothesis. You are one with the truth. Once you have rejected all the dualities, you are one with it. Therefore, he's saying chamatkaraha. It happens. That means you are not trying to do it. You are not getting it. It's not a sadhya thing. It's not achieved. It happens. Tasya sambhavaha nityameva. And then he's saying this doesn't happen at a particular moment. That momentary appearance, what you think it happened on this particular day, I had self-realization. No. The self was always there. You just took notice of it. Turya chamatkara mayatvam prokta mahayoga yuktasya. Doesn't mean that he hasn't done any sadhana. He's a mahayogi. He has done a lot of sadhana. And that is how this particular thing, that rapturous experience of the self, becomes evident to him. Let's put this language. It doesn't happen, it becomes evident to him. He's enjoying it because he's now able to experience it. But it's always there. It's like in Vedanta, they say that the lady in the party of a granddaughter's marriage is perturbed that somebody stole her diamond necklace. And then one of her granddaughters comes and, what happened to you, Nana? He says, where is my necklace? He says, no, you're wearing it. Where is it? Then she pulls it out. He said, there is, here is it. She takes a picture with your cell phone and then shows it to her. It's here. Oh, really? She's very happy. She has got back her necklace. Praptasya prapti. She had it and she got it. Many of the things that this whole text is telling us is already with us. We are just getting it because you are not getting it. We just recognize it. Kechi sambhava ityatra samviditi spastartha pathanti. That yoga yuktasya bhavati ityartha, when he's saying sambhavaha, he's saying no samvid. That is the realization. That is that consciousness. Okay? That is what. And then there are certain other commentators who have mentioned in their own ways of explanation, they are trying to capture this experience in words. What is this Paramayogi for whom the Samadhi and Vyuthana Avastha have become one? There's a beautiful, couplets taken from one of the texts. And what are the text? It's called Chandra Jnana, from where it is taken. Yathenduhu Puspa Sankashaha. We say that Yava Kushuma Sankasaha, To whom? Surya Devata. Sankasa means Kasa Dipto. It appears like, it shines like a red China rose or Java Kushuma. So it's red early morning. So Yathenduhu Puspa Sankasaha. It blossoms, blooms like a flower. Samantat Avabhasane. Alhadayan Samuhena. Jagat Alhadayat Kshanat. Alhadayan Samuhena. So, all these rays it has, beautiful rays, the moon, it makes everyone happy. It spreads the joy through the joyous rays, it emanates from it. This is the example, point of comparison. Who is being compared? Who is being talked about? That Atmagyani, who is established in that particular state. Tadava Devi Mahayogi. O mother, Lord Shiva is telling to Parvati. Tadvat, exactly like that. Mahayogi Yada Paryatate Mahim. When he moves around from place to place, that Mahayogi. Jnanendu Kiranehi Sarvehi. He has the light, the rays of his Jnana Indu. His wisdom is like a moon. And with the light of his wisdom, Jagat Chitram Samastakam. Alhadaye Samantad Avichyadi Sivantakam. So he lights up, he illuminates, he makes everybody happy. He spreads joy. How? Starting with Avici. Avici is one of the hells. And the ultimate auspicious existence, the state is Lord Shiva, Kalyanamaya Shiva. Everybody that he meets, whether somebody is realized, somebody is rich, somebody is well established, somebody is not, somebody is struggling, middle class, rich, poor, everything. You must have read that beautiful book called Siddharth. What happened to him in the end when he became realized? People just liked him. Some people made fun of him. Who's this guy? Some people found he has nothing special, but some people got attracted to him because he had come to that state of being in himself without demanding, without asking, without seeking anything. That's one of the stages. I mean, that's a work of literature. The Shastra says, Jnanendu Kiranehi. Then he's saying it lights up the whole humanity around him. Ityadina Sri Chandra Jnani Jagarado Turya Bhogamayatvam Mahayoginaha Darshitam. Chandra Gyan, that is the book in which Jagarado, that means Jagrat Avasthayam, Swapna Avasthayam, Susipti Avasthayam, in all these states, Turya Bhogamayatvam. Each state now is filled with the realization of that fourth state, which is that Sachidananda Jnana Swarupa realization. He's always in a state of happiness. Wherever he goes, people become happy. Some of the text says that you can see that along Ganges also. There are a lot of these mendicant monks, poor people, you don't even know who they are. But I've seen the dogs talk to them. The dogs go and stand, lick them, try to play with them, because these mendicants, they don't have anything to eat and they're, not very well dressed. They're terribly dressed. But whatever food they get, they never eat alone. They share this with these dogs, and these dogs know they are full of compassion. For the dogs, they're the richest people on earth. They'll go and sit with them. They sleep on the chair. You would find that two dogs are sleeping below that chair on the roadside. It's amazing. So it's not about what you have, it's about what you share. So that yogi, that Mahayogi is like that, he mentions. Now, if you look at the Spandakarika, as I had told you in the beginning, that sometimes Siva Sutra is seen as a commentary on Spandakarika. Some people say that. Spandakarika is seen as a commentary on the Shiva Sutras. There's a kind of organic relationship between them. So, in the Spandakarika, Jagradadi Vivhedepi Tadabhinne Prasarvati Nivartate Nijan Neva Swabhavat Upaladhritaha Jagradadi Vivhedepi. Even though this Jagrata and other stages, they are all different from each other. That's fine. Tad Abhinne Prasarpati. But that person, and there are different academic analysis and breaking away that vigraha, that tad abhinni, because that fourth state is in all of them, and yet it's also different from all of them, but it's also in all of them. It's actually not different because it's all immanent in all these three states. Nivartate nijan neva. And then he's absolutely not affected by anything, and he's having that state in which that pure consciousness, that Shiva consciousness, he continues to remain there, even though he's passing through the Vyuthana Avastha, the Swapna, the Jagrata, and the Sushupti Avasthas. He never ever goes away from his self awareness. And he's that pure experience here. He doesn't participate. So, in a way, we'll get into that. The concluding remarks I'll make. But there's a lot of other people who have made a few interesting commentaries, and we'll sort of try to quickly look at them. We have already looked at the three states and how they are interruptible. They do get interrupted. They are not permanent. They are different from each other. There are associated conditions because of which you experience either sleep or dream or the waking states. So now let's sort of come towards the conclusion of it. He's saying what? The question is that if you are not any of these states, who are you? Are you same as this waking state or Swapna Avastha, the dream state, or the Jagrata Avastha, or the deep sleep state? Who are you? Are you identifiable with any of these? He's saying no. If you say you are actually beyond that, you're beyond that, and that is why it's so interesting. So you are that, that akhandita, avastatraya shakshi. So you are the one who is a witness to these three states. That is the most important aspect. And you are having that self-realization. And once you have that self-realization, that akhandaswa, as he mentioning, that which sort of walks you through all these states, and it doesn't change anything because you are having that consciousness that you are no different from. Because you remember when we were dealing with Udyama Bhairavaha, there was one word there, a jargon, Prashanta Veda Avabhasatmaka Swarupa. And then there is Unmesha of it, its appearance. Prashanta Veda Avabhasa. The Bheda Avabhasa, Veda is unreal, fine, but it appears. There is a Abhavasa, even though it's not real, it's troubling us. Brahman is real, Jagat is not real, but Jagat is troubling us. There is Jagat Avabhasa, Bheda Avabhasa. That Bheda Avabhasa doesn't trouble us during the sleep state, deep sleep state, during the Samadhi Avastha, but it troubles us during our waking state when we are doing so many things. What he's trying to say, that Veda Vavhasa, Prashanta Veda Vavhasa, that has been pacified. It doesn't trouble us. Even if you are in everything, you are absolutely not troubled by this. So even though you have these Vedatmaka Anubhutis, you have experiences which are different from each other in these three states, you have that Abhedatmaka Anubhuti of that Atman, Paramashiva, and therefore you have equanimity with regard to all these three states. That is what he mentions. So this commentator Varadaraja is writing, with that we will stop for the day. Varadaraja has a couple of lines which are very interesting. Vartikakara, he has written that Vartikantis. What is saying? Evam swasambhita kalagni plushtavedasya yoginaha nasya samadhivuthana vedaha kopi kopiti kathyate evam swasambhita kalagni plushtavedasya. When you have swasambhita kalagni, that fire, that kalagni, what we have mentioned, kalagni rudra, which is there in the Prithvi Tattva, that when you have that swasambhita, the power of that self-awareness, the fire of jnana, self-awareness, it burns down these dualities, bhedas. By whom? Of the yogi. These bhedas are destroyed. Nasya samadhi vithana bhedaha. For him, he is in state of meditation or he is doing some vyavahara. It doesn't affect him. Ko api iti kathyate. There is no difference. One of the good examples would be perhaps Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He was in a sahaja bhava. Sometimes he used to fall in samadhis, but even if he was talking or anything, Thakur said a beautiful thing. He said, anytime when you forgot that divinity, the misery begins. When you have that failure to remember the Siva bhava that you are, the problems start. All the problems gather around us. Today I was having an interaction with these young students. One of them is a very bright guy. I was thinking maybe he can get in touch with Nileji. He's doing with his Niger. He's in final year in mathematics. He wants to get into computational mathematics. Bright boy from, I think, Salt Lake area. He's in the final year and he wants to do an MTech or something. Very bright and Thakur's devotee. And one of these questions they were raising was that you have so many distractions all around you. And one of the concerns of these bright, spiritually inclined students is how to hold the self in our attention all the time. Because they come from backgrounds where there is an element of spirituality and they are feeling a little challenged, a little disturbed by multiple engagements, including social media and phone and this and that, and study and class notes and this and that. And see, now I tell you this, you must have also seen, you are in a corporate sector, so there is a physical training department, there is a counseling department, there is a health department, with that, and they have to justify their job, otherwise they'll lose their job. And what do? They're demanding your attention. They do some kind of program, PowerPoint, and they say, please come, otherwise please mark it was very relevant, otherwise I'll lose my consultancy agreement, I'll not be invited again. So everybody is trying to, everybody is targeting our attention. Everyone. It's the government, it's market, everywhere. You have to pay on YouTube. If you don't pay, you can't do anything. They'll send these advertisements everywhere. There's an onslaught on our consciousness. Constant onslaught, morning to night. And then that doesn't affect the yogi. Udyomo Bhairavaiti Prokta Rupam Sparad Vapuhu. That is the body of his luminosity. It's the Rupa Vapu. Turya Nama Parangdhama Tadhavagos Samatkriya. That magic happens, that fourth state, which is permanent and present in all these three states. Bhedepi Jagratadinam Yoginastasya Sambhavaha. The dualities are there, the distinction there during Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, Sushupti Avastha. Yoginah tasya sambhava. What? Anushritihi parananda rupa syad iti sisyate. That which is there in all these three states, that fourth state, that Atma Tattva Jnana, that ability to being with yourself, for the Parama Yogi is possible. And this is what Bhartika Kara says. So, it's to just bring it to an end for the day. Abhinava Guptacharya, he's also makes a lot of commentaries, beautiful commentaries, not on Siva Sutra as such, but he has talked about it. You see, the Parasatta, the ultimate state of our consciousness, the ultimate nature, the Swarup of our consciousness, and the different forms it seems to assume. Like, for example, sometimes you are writing a poem and then you are writing a project proposal, then you are painting, then you are playing a game. Each consciousness becoming, because of the kind of objects that is associated with, does it become different? Just imagine we have one brain, but we are going one step further to the consciousness. So, and the way the mind works with all these are different. The attitude, the nature of your engagement that's required for you to play a music instrument or write a poem or paint something is different from the kind of skills, the kind of orientation, the kind of engagement you require to write a research paper. And that's radically different for you to handle projects in your office. So sometimes the best academician could be the worst administrator. These are all different. Now the question is consciousness different? Which is engaged with all these sets of activities? It's not. That Dvaita Avabhasa is just an appearance because we lose sight of that supreme unity which pervades all these multiple engagements of the consciousness, of the mind. Therefore, he's saying Dvaitam Dvaitamayam Veda Idam Advaita Mityapi Prakasavapurevayam Bhasate Parameshwaraha. Beautiful sentence. Dvaita Dvaitamaya Veda Idam Advaitam Iti Api. It is different. This is full of difference. And this is free from all differences. These three stages, all these three stages, you have to understand that they are not fundamentally real. This is just one undivided reality. You are only seeing distinctions because you are not realizing your supreme nature. That's what they are mentioning. Dvaita Dvaitamayam Veda Idam Advaitam Ityapi Prakasa Bapurevayam. It's Prakasha Swarupa, the luminosity of the consciousness. That is the only reality. And we have discussed that in Advaita Vedanta. The light of the Atman, the light of consciousness, is not like physical light. The example in Vedanta they give is that you need a torchlight to read something in darkness, but that torchlight cannot show you the sun. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. That pure consciousness which enables the appearance of everything else cannot be shown by any other light. The mind cannot show it. Mind is shown by that supreme consciousness. What you call cognitive consciousness or the consciousness that you associate with the brain, the substratum of that consciousness is that super subtlest realm of consciousness. The rest is just a game above it. Prakasa Bapurevayam Bhasate Parameshwaraha. And then, what is the benefit of this? Why do you want to go there? Why should I do all kinds of efforts to condition my mind so that it's able to realize that truth? Which anyway cannot be achieved, it's not a product. But you will be able to see it. And what is the benefit? He's saying, Asyam bhumau sukham dukkham bandho mokshas chitir jadaha ghadakumbha vadekarthaha sabdaste pekemaya vacha. Asyam bhumau, in this particular thing, in that state, sukham dukkham bandha moksha, happiness and sadness, bondage and liberation. Chitir jadaha, this is conscious, this is unconscious. Ghata kumbhavat ekarthaha, ghata and kumbha. You say this is a ghata, this is a pot, and this is a kumbha, this is a circular pot. What is the difference? There are two words. Ghata and kumbha refer to one object. This whole sansara, these are nama rupas, is all different, but it's all pure consciousness. Ghada kumbha vadekarthaha sabdaha te api ekamevacha. You have so many words. Vacharam vikara namadeya mritika ityevam satyam. That is what the Upanishad says. Like of clay, you have so many tools and different kinds of shapes and sizes you gave, and this becomes a tumbler, this is a glass, this is a pot, this is this, that. Made out of what? Clay. Panchabhuta, this is a man, this is handsome, this is ugly, old, young, baby. Made out of what? These Panchabhutas. What is more real? Panchabhuta is more real than what we are narrating through so many words. Ghadakumbhavat ekarthaha. Sabdas are different. Artha is what you're referring to. When I say pen, this is a word. This is a vachya is this one. Vachaka is pen. Kalama. That's what I'm saying. So the sabdas are different that we are uttering about the universe. The artha is one. Ekarthaha. Sabdas tepi ekamevacha. And all these sabdaha, which are narrated with the help of words, they are verily one, and that is Paramashiva. Because the multiplicity becomes evident only when we descend in our consciousness from that supreme consciousness. Therefore, he is beautifully sort of one more beautiful couplet there. Neelam Pitam Sukhamiti Prakasha Kevalah Shiva. This is blue, this is green, this is happiness, it is sad, it is Prakasha, Kevalah Shiva. Everything is verily only Shiva. Amusmin Paramadvaite, Paramadvaite, in this Paramadvaita. Prakasamatmani ko paraha. In that ultimate self, what is here and what is not here, what is beyond this. Upayo peya bhava syat prakasah kevalam hishaha. Upaya and upeya. You have some sadhana, you are doing a course, you get a degree. Upaya, upeya, pramana, prameya, knowing and known, they are all one. Very cryptic, very mysterious. So he's saying that this Vichitrata, this Vishwa Sanghara that we had mentioned in the previous sutra, that is what is hinting. It said that Vaichitriya, the colorful multiplicity of this whole universe, is verily an eminent, the effulgent and eminent manifestation of the power, the Sakti, Swatantra Sakti of Paramashiva, who is playing a game and you are lost in the details. And then you have to, then we'll try to conclude it because we've kind of touched the timeline. There are a few takeaway lessons from this sutra. It's a very beautiful sutra, all the sutras are very short, but loaded with a lot of insights which can help us in our meditation, in our spiritual practice. So we'll stop here. And any questions, one or two, and of course we've just touched the timeline, but any questions anyone has? No?
Swamiji, one point I want to highlight, and you had mentioned that there is a one type of meditation where you gave example of a mother who is into the external world, but all the time his attention, his meditation is on the internal, his about his babies and all that. And you have told that some of us, or most of us, like in that state uh, sometime. But in the common parlance, in the usual go of the world, we don't call it a meditation. We all are in the dual world. While working, our attention is on the family. While being in the family, our mind works on that, like about the work. Can we call it as a meditation, or it's a defocusing state?
You see, this is a very beautiful question. This is the Kashmiri Saivism method. It doesn't prescribe sannyasa. It prescribes purification of your consciousness through understanding, through action. And it says that you'll be able to attain a state, you'll be able to have a state of illumination when you are internally oriented. Your ability to understand, make sense of the outside world stays intact. When you are engaging with the outside world, your connectivity to the inside world stays intact. Perhaps this is the greatest thing that anybody can ever fancy of achieving through any sadhana. Because given the kind of mind we have, the basic mind, when you're focusing on one thing, the other things all you forget. Nyayika says the mind can think about an object only at a point, it can be aware of only one object. Then he says, no, I know 20 things. The Nyayika says, no, no. The manas can travel very fast. They are intermissions that you are not aware of. Like in a film, these are still pictures taken, but appears as if they are moving. Similarly, you are not knowing. There's nothing called dharavahika jnana. These are gaps, they are tiny gaps. All jnana that there's a start, it stays, and then trikhana sthayi. Apeksha buddhi, you have chatuskshana. There are four. Kshana is not a second in English. So they have their own meter. They have their own, units and measurements. So all these Fikshana and 4 seconds, I don't know if that is the appropriate thing. All these are what we experience in everyday life, that when we attend to something, we forget everything. He is perhaps not talking about this phenomenal level of our mental or brain level engagement, where there is association and dissociation of the mind from the external or the internal realities. He is taking it to a different level, where even though you may be connected with an external world through your brain, its functionality, or you may be connected with an internal world or reality, you're so much established in that understanding of unity that despite the outward appearance of you being either externally oriented or internally oriented, you are remaining verily neither outside nor inside, but you are remaining in that Shiva consciousness. So this is not, so if you look at some of these powerful statements, Sri Aurobindo says all life is yoga. There is nothing called yoga and then life. That is Puratana yoga. That is Patanjali yoga. Nirvikalpa samadhi. You will get a lot of siddhis. But integral yoga is saying, no, it's not about that. It's about being in that state of, you have to divinize everything that is happening around you, and you have to stay. So the moment you dissociate, that means you are forgetting that Swarupa, then all these are happening. So actually, uh, they say that all life can be a state of meditation, all life can be a state of prayer. But these are much easily said than realized. So the journey starts with an interest in this particular field. Where we will reach in terms of the level of realization, largely on us.
Can I
Yeah,
can I
please.
ask a quick follow-up question on that? So again, I think you mentioned in there that whenever we forget this, our divinity, and we think that our praman, prameya, pramata are separate, that's when the misery begins. But the moment we go back to the unity, then the knowledge and bliss combine, right? Whereas before, in our everyday experiences, they're separate and we are misery. So the fact that we cannot experience the bliss, does that mean that even when we think that we are, because every once in a while you kind of get some sense that okay, you are the watcher looking at everything, but the corresponding bliss does not appear. So does that simply mean that we are not there yet, or what is the
You raised a very, very relevant point from sadhana point of view. We'll discuss that in the next class. Please remind me right in the beginning. What happens is saying that through constant repetition of this practice of being a witness, you create a powerful sanskara. So even in Yoga Sutras, he says that a person does a lot of meditation, then what happens is that he is able to defeat the obstructions much easily, and he is able to establish sahayakas, that which helps him. He empowers those soldiers who defend his meditation, and they help him move forward. So there is a lot of reference to it, and this is this Bhutan and Sanskara, that's how it becomes one. He's saying no, because he practices, he reaches there because of his practice. And what you mentioned, the fact that once in a while you are being able to get into that witness mode. Often we get into the witness mode when either we are powerless to act on something, or it's fruitless. That happens in everyday life. But when genuinely, even if you are in all powerful location with regard to that decision, when you're able to make yourself the witness, and you are doing it, but you're also watching it, you're also watching yourself, the more and more it happens, the more and more that person evolves. That is what this says. And there are a few references, and I'll look at that in the next class. We'll go into the details. But from sadhana point of view, this is a challenge for everyone, whether you are a monk or you are a sannyasi or a student or anything, because this is a process where we are essentially working on what we know, how we respond, how we evolve. So this is just outside the book, but this is all about what we are discussing as part of the book. So this is the practical side of all our study. Yeah, so we'll stop here, and happy Holi, and we'll meet again on Thursday. So let's do the Shanti mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Udachyate Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya Purnamevavachyate.
Purnamidam Om Shanti
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Yo Namaha.
Gurubhyo Namaha.
Om.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Have a good day.